So thank you very much, and welcome to our Travel Talk series on Tuesday evenings. I'm Christine McDougall. I'm from the Kerrisdale Center, and I am your host this evening, or we'll call it that, for all of our centers. So you've been invited tonight from perhaps the Burnaby store or up in Kelowna, Catherine and her team, also Andrew and his team in North Vancouver and Lynn Valley, Elaine in Sydney, Janice from West Shore, or perhaps you've been invited by Scarlett and her team West Van, and of course Jeremy, Victoria and Comox Valley. So you've been invited by our centers tonight, and we so appreciate your time. I know it's kind of a nice evening out there, so you could be out gardening, and instead you're going to spend some time with us because you're as excited as us, I think, to talk about travel and to start thinking about traveling. And I know I am. I mean, as Canadians, we've been locked down for so long now. I think we're all ready to fly the coop as soon as we can. So that's what our guest tonight, Tom Steer from Holland America, is going to do. He is going to get you excited about the idea of flying the coop soon and getting out of Vancouver and out of your home and getting a chance to see the world. I know I'm particularly excited about the idea of even going away in 2021. In fact, that's what I'm really excited to hear Tom talk about tonight, is that there's going to be some Seattle to Alaska. And I am thinking that might be a really easy cruise to do with myself and my 94-year-old mother. It's easy. We could take the bus down there, or perhaps I'll drive and we could do a little shopping on the way home. So anyways, we're just waiting for those borders to open, the travel advisories to be lifted, the quarantine, all these things that are keeping us locked. But I have faith. I've heard today that there is an announcement pending. They've said that a few times, so we know that where there's smoke, there's fire. So keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully in the next few days, we're going to see and hear some news that's going to allow us Canadians to do more than just dreaming about travel. We're going to be able to actually do some. So with that in mind, I'm going to let Tom take it over from here and tell you about all the places you can go with Holland America, and particularly, like I said, Alaska 2021. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Chrissy. I feel I should have titled this presentation "Flying the Coop." I love that. That's what we're all eager to do. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here again for another one of the Travel Talk Tuesdays. I love these sessions because it gets us all excited and ready to get out there and travel. And as Chrissy mentioned, tonight is kind of a special presentation because it's probably the first time you're hearing about closer in opportunities. It's certainly kind of hot off the press. I was here probably 3 months ago. Some of you may have joined us for a Holland America session we did on some other types of cruises. So great to see you again. It's great to be here and see you again virtually. There's my high school shot, if you were wondering what I look like when I'm not wearing my PJs doing these Zoom calls, as most of us are all the time. So tonight, yeah, it is a kind of a new opportunity that I'm going to talk about, and it's very exciting because it is new. We are calling it "The Wait Is Over." Now, had we been talking months ago, earlier this year, when we heard the Canadian ports were closed for the year, just about all of us in Western Canada assumed there will be no opportunities to cruise Alaska for folks in Western Canada, and I think that was the mindset. But thanks to a few arrangements that have been made, we have been able to go ahead with a short season, but it is a season nevertheless out of Seattle. So that's what I'm going to talk about this evening. And I will kind of preface that by saying I'm not here to speculate or give guidelines on what will happen with the border. As Chrissy said, we're very hopeful. Things are moving forward in a very reassuring pace. But do reach out to your Expedia Cruises consultant and ask them about that. They're on top of all of those developments, and they'll be able to work with you on how you can take advantage of some of these possibilities. So I'm going to talk about what happens once you get to the ship and what we're doing on board and all those things. I'm going to talk about some other itineraries as well. You probably saw at the start that aside from Alaska in 2021, I'm also going to touch on some of those West Coast opportunities in 2022. So I think the best place to start is talk about what we're doing in terms of return to sail. How did we get to this point? We have been very, very busy over the last year or so, working with organizations like the CDC, the WHO, various maritime authorities, countries, the CLEAR organization of cruise lines, to be in lockstep and developing protocols. And we're getting closer and closer day by day. So we're in a great place. We're all feeling very hopeful, and it's just going to be so fantastic to step back on board ship. I'm sure we can all imagine that feeling when we walk down the gangway, how fantastic it's going to be. So the work has paid off. Something we've developed is a set of protocols. We call them the Travel World Guest Protocols. Now, this information is available publicly. You can find this on the Holland America website. You can always reach out to your Expedia Cruises consultant, because they are on top of this. They have all of the latest developments for not just Holland America, all of the cruise operators, as far as the protocols on board. But we don't have pages and pages and lots of details. We are trying to keep it simple and give you the information as it's kind of ratified and confirmed. So this is what you'll find in terms of what you can access yourself. I'm going to kind of dip into this and give you a little bit more of a background on each one of these protocols. First off, though, I'm going to address that word, everyone's favorite word, vaccines. As far as Holland America is concerned, I cannot speak for other cruise operators, but these new cruises from Seattle are available for guests who have had their final dose of an approved vaccine at least 14 days prior to the cruise. That allows us, by having fully vaccinated guests and fully vaccinated crew, that allows us to resume more of a typical onboard environment and onboard service. I cannot comment on other cruise lines out there if they are operating with a lower limit of vaccine or lower threshold of vaccine requirements on board. But what I do know is the more vaccinated, or the more fully vaccinated you are as a ship in terms of guests and crew, the more you can do and get back to normal on board when it comes to service. So that's the most important thing out of the gates. Pre-cruise and embarkation. So what's changing? There are going to be some changes when it comes to what you have to review and confirm pre-cruise. So there'll be several documents you'll need to review, pre-booking and pre-travel health advice. So that's something you can work with your Expedia Cruises consultant on. You'll see those. A lot of this information you'll be able to access through the Navigator app. So this is the app we've always used on board. We've had it for about maybe 5, 6, 7 years. While we've had this kind of downtime, as it were, we've been very busy building out this Navigator app so you can do all sorts of cool things on it. And this is where you will not only be able to take care of booking your dining on board, checking your onboard account, your future cruise credits, shore excursions. You're also going to be able to access those documents pre-cruise and confirm details pre-cruise, which is going to make the embarkation process so much smoother. So if you don't already have that app loaded from a previous cruise, get yourself in the cruise mood, download yourself a little slice of Holland America early, and you can get working on your pre-cruise preparation by having that app. Enhanced screening. We are doing 100% testing at embarkation. This is key. Physical distancing. So I should say here, we're starting from a slightly different place. We've got a bit of a head start in terms of physical space on board, because Holland America has always been known for having more spacious ships, fewer crowds. So we're not having to reinvent the wheel here. This actually works quite well for us. So we're implementing physical distancing on board, which we feel will be quite simple, and that allows us not to have to require masks where we can have physical distancing on board. And I should say, all of these protocols, everything I'm discussing now, they can and probably will change slightly. It's a very fluid situation as we work with various authorities and kind of nations, regional authorities. We may be tweaking these and adjusting these, but this is what we can tell you today. So these may change later, and speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant on that. But right now, masks will only be required where physical distancing cannot be maintained. We feel pretty confident that physical distancing can be maintained most of the time. So we're pretty excited about that. Personal hygiene. I'm sure you've all been on board. You've seen those Purell stations. It's always been a part of what we do. So we've notched that up quite a bit. so it's even more comprehensive. Sanitation goes without saying. That is even greater on board. We're managing the traffic flow again to create that kind of effective physical distancing on board in the bars, venues, lounges. When it comes to gangway for short excursions, this type of thing, we have that as part of our plans. Medical care. Now, something you may or may not know about the medical care on board is that all of our doctors and nurses are North American. The reason I say this is because every time I've been on board and I've met one of the doctors or nurses, they always seem to be Canadian. So there's a lot of good old Canadians working on board as doctors and nurses. And we're very proud of our medical facilities. Even kind of pre-COVID, we have won awards of recognition for having the best medical facilities at sea for many, many years. So that's something we've taken to the next level. All of the medical care facilities on board have the appropriate testing and treatment facilities. Ventilation, again, while the ships have had this downtime, we haven't been just turning the engine over, doing a few donuts out there in the middle of the ocean. We've been busy working on board. What we've done with the ventilation is we've upgraded the filtration to the HVAC systems using infrared technology, and it's designed to replace the air in the staterooms and public venues every 5 to 6 minutes, which is very cool. In terms of the shoreside experience, and again, I must say, this is another caveat to all of this information I'm giving you now. All of this that I'm sharing with you now essentially relates to these first sailings, these new sailings that we've announced for Alaska this summer. The information may or may not begin to apply to all of those cruises going further forward out into 2022. Obviously, as we get closer to each departure date, we will have information on how much of this applies, whether all of it applies, how we change it. But what I'm sharing with you now essentially is applying to those first cruises back in Alaska. So in terms of the shoreside experience, think of it like this. Whatever a local in Alaska is able to do in terms of physical distancing, wearing a mask, what they can and cannot do, that is what guests from our ship, from the ship, will be able to do. They can go ashore independently. You can go ashore with a shore excursion. When you are ashore in Alaska, if a coffee shop requires you to wear a mask, you require a mask. If that's what the locals and residents there are required to do, you are required to do that too. So basically, you get to fit in with the locals. That is, I think that's a very fair way for us to implement this. So there's some of the protocols. Like I say, they can and probably will change slightly, but this is a lot of kind of substantial information I think that we have to share at this point. And again, that Navigator app, there's so much you can do on there. Like I say, manage your future cruise credit balance. You can even check your previous onboard spend and bills from your last cruise. So if you want to dream about that Pinnacle Grill dinner you had on your last cruise, you can go back through your old bills and see which day you had the Pinnacle Grill on whichever ship. So it's all there. Really great app. I highly recommend you getting that app. One thing I should mention is I know the team at Expedia Cruise have lots of options for you in terms of travel protection and coverage, and Chrissy will share that information, and the team will share that information. One of the options, of course, is the Holland America cancellation protection, which they can discuss with you. So let's get into the good stuff. Now, for those of you who joined us a few months ago, when we talked about some of those other Holland America cruises, I gave a little bit of a insight and kind of a Holland America 101. I know today on the webinar we have some of you who have cruised Holland America many times. Some of you haven't at all. So I am going to kind of introduce Holland America again, just a little bit, just to familiarize you with Holland America if you're not accustomed to what Holland America is all about, just to give you a flavor, just a sense of what it's like to be on board with Holland America. Essentially, we're for explorers, foodies, and music lovers. We sail to all continents. We have a global reach in terms of our ships. We have uncrowded ships. We don't have those gimmicks on board. The Holland America experience essentially begins with the ships themselves. The size is so key. We have what used to be called mid-size ships, but a lot of the mid-size kind of cruise operators have grown, so they kind of left the mid-size bracket. the experience on board is dictated by the size. You know, when you've got 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 guests on board, it's a very different experience to when you have 2,000. That's our average guest count, 2,000 guests on board. And as I mentioned before, our ships have more space, they're more spacious. The staterooms themselves, the staterooms compared to other premium cruise lines have more space on average, but it's the look and feel, that kind of classic Holland America look that we're known for, the dark blue hulls, the wraparound teak decks. We call it kind of classic with a modern twist. You can call it retro chic. We've got that kind of timeless elegance, but lots of fun stuff going on. And folks come to us kind of from all over the cruise world. We've got, you know, anniversary couples, sisters reunions, girls getaways, family groups. Folks find us for many reasons, because we aren't just one thing. We offer different types of cruises in different destinations. So at the beginning, you saw a slide I shared that said for explorers. And what I meant by that is we have this depth and breadth. We have a sheer number of itineraries, and then a number of ports we visit. So that means we have sailings in Europe that are short, 7-day. We've got sailings in Europe that are longer, up to 24 days. You know, Northern Europe, the Mediterranean, we've got sailings in Alaska that are 7-day, and sailings in Alaska that are 14-day. So you have different types of cruisers coming to different regions with us for a different type of cruise experience. But they all love Holland America for that experience once they're on board. So yeah, the depth and breadth is certainly key. We have folks coming to us, stepping down from kind of the mega ship experience. You know, they want more space on board, fewer crowds, more touches of luxury. We have folks coming to us from the small ships, what you'd call the luxury cruise lines. And believe it or not, they don't just come to us so they have more space on board. They come to Holland America for the itineraries, because where we have the coverage in terms of number of itineraries and number of ports, and we can offer so many variations of certain itineraries, we offer more variety than the typical kind of small luxury line in terms of the itinerary. So we have lots of folks join us coming from that side of the cruise spectrum. Food is a big part of cruising, is the food, and some of you may have had your dinner already this evening. You may be waiting until after this, but I'm going to talk about food for a second, because it is key. We've been the cruise line for foodies for a long time, and I mentioned this before. It's because of a balance that we managed to strike, where we don't just have that experience of one dining room and then one casual option that you find on very small ships, but we also don't have the one dining room with the same menu every day and then 10 paid specialty dining options. We have the Holland America classic dining room experience, whether it's open seating or fixed, and then you've got those 3, 4, or 5 specialty venues for something a little bit different. So it's a nice middle ground. And we've got a team of 8 individuals. They're Michelin star chefs, they're proprietors, TV chefs, authors. They're all very creative and energetic, enhancing our menus throughout the ship on a regular basis. We're not just tied to one celebrity chef name, and that's, you know, what we kind of sing from the rooftops, that one celebrity chef, to get some PR and some press coverage. It goes way deeper than that. Genuine, passionate, talented individuals keeping those menus fresh every day of the cruise. And then the ports, that plays a kind of a role in kind of the entire kind of culinary umbrella on board, because we have started over the past 5 years to expand the culinary offerings in port. This is with Food and Wine magazine, and it's not just in the places where you'd expect, like the Mediterranean or Asia. Places like Alaska, great examples, where we'll go out in Ketchikan, visit the kelp farms, the oyster farms, see how that local produce is cultivated. In Juneau, you get to see some of the kind of the best kitchens and chefs in action, break bread with the locals, because that's what it's all about. Seeing how locally sourced ingredients are used in traditional recipes. There's such an appetite, to use a food analogy. There's such an appetite for that these days. We're expanding that, and you find it across our itineraries, not just in those key foodie parts of the world that you would imagine. And then music. This is something I mentioned last time I was here. We shook things up a few years ago. we have something called Music Walk, which is very different to what you expect with cruising, where you may have experienced this before. You see that same house band, the cruise ship lounge band. You see them in every venue. You wave to the guitarist because you see him so often. He's up on the Lido deck, then he's playing with the shows, then he's in another lounge. He's wearing a different jacket. It's the same band everywhere. We moved away from that. We made purpose-built venues, professional venues, for professional, talented musicians who are experts in their own genres. So BB King's, this is an 8-piece band, and they are playing everything from, you know, Chuck Berry to Beyonce, Bruno Mars to Motown, get the crowd on their feet. And you may think BB King's Blues Club, BB King's, that kind of is associated with time gone by. There was a very a viral video, I should say, that was doing the rounds not too long ago, where Justin Timberlake was down at BB King's Blues Club in Beale Street, Memphis, getting up, jamming with the band on stage. All of these folks have come through Beale Street, Memphis. They're an accredited BB King's Blues Club band, so they are phenomenal. Billboard on board. Forget about those tiny piano bars with everyone, you know, hunched over, trying to cram in, standing there, trying not to have their martini knocked as people walk in the room, because it's such a popular spot. It's a popular venue, but we've opened it up. It's a very open, wide, expansive venue, and it's 2 piano entertainers, not just one. So twice the fun, twice the laughs, twice the banter and the sing-alongs in this awesome venue. And then Lincoln Center, this is the classical recitals, but with a twist. It's the standard classical performances, but also kind of a modern take, combining kind of genres, familiar artists that you'll know and love, pop artists with classical, with a classical style. And again, these folks, you know, they are true professionals. They've come through Lincoln Center, the #1 institution for classical music in North America, and their performances are just wonderful. Just go into their afternoon performances, you know, with a cup of tea in the afternoon, or kind of pre-dinner cocktails for their performances. It's wonderful. Just sets the tone, sets the mood for the evening. So we've got these great music venues that are all kind of firing on all four cylinders around the ship, which makes for just such a fun evening. There's a real atmosphere, a real heart and soul. I'll tell you about that other lounge in just a second. I must give a big shout to the crew, and this really kind of makes my heart swell, and that is knowing that our crew who win hearts and minds, cruise in, cruise out, put smiles on our guest faces. And you know, when we win awards, it comes down to the crew. They are going to be welcoming our guests back on board very soon, and that's just so magical knowing that's going to be happening. They are so excited. I've seen lots of photos online with them counting down the days to the first guest. It's going to be so amazing when that first guest walks up the gangway and interacts with that first crew member. That's what it's all about. That's what the Holland America onboard experience is all about. So we're super excited. The DAM fleet. These are the DAM ships. There's a couple of them I'm going to mention here. Some of them are sailing out of Vancouver. One of them is sailing out of Seattle this summer. That's the one we're going to talk about in just a second. But something that is very kind of big news for us, let's say, is what's happening in 2022. It's going to be our 150th anniversary. We've been around just a few years, 150 years. That is incredible. And part of that celebration will be the Rotterdam sailing her first full season in Europe. Now, she's our brand new ship. She's scheduled for delivery later this year. She is the third of the Pinnacle class ships. She's one of our Pinnacle class ships. They're not mega ships, still under 100,000 tons, only 2,600 guests. So we're not building mega ships. We've had 2 of these ships in the fleet already, and they've been taken, I should say, welcomed with open arms by our mariners. So absolutely gorgeous ships. And she is sailing in Europe 2022, summer 2022. She's in the Caribbean this winter. If you think you might be interested in sailing on our brand new Rotterdam, our brand new ship, our flagship, then speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant. She is actually Rotterdam number 7. 150 years ago, the first ship to ever set sail for Holland America was Rotterdam, the first Rotterdam number 1. So she will be the flagship. 7 incarnations later, 150 years later. So a really special year for us next year, welcoming the Rotterdam. And you can see she's Holland America through and through. The classic lines, classic Holland America venues. Every time I see this picture, I get hungry when I see that burger. I genuinely believe we have the best burgers at sea in our dive-in, but also something we hear that you might not associate with cruising. We have the best salads at sea. You always hear about our salad bar. Anyone who's been on board right now is probably nodding. We have this awesome salad bar where these personalized, customized salads are created for you. Yeah, the best salads at sea and the best burgers at sea. That's the best of both worlds, right? Salads and burgers, you can't go wrong with that. So yeah, she's a very cool ship. On schedule, by the way. She is due to be delivered on schedule. The rooms are fantastic, classic Holland America suites and staterooms. She's on schedule to be delivered this summer. We've pushed back her first few sailings for deployment reasons. We've had to move things back slightly, but she's currently in the Fincantieri shipyard just outside of Venice, having the final fixtures and fittings installed. And she just completed her sea trials. There she is in the Adriatic, being put through her paces. She passed with flying colors. She was out there with the captain, you know, putting the pedal to the metal, or the joystick to the metal, I guess you could say. But she passed with flying colors. So we're super excited. Rotterdam is going to be a big part of the Holland America fleet coming very, very soon. So let's talk about that one part of the world that Chrissy mentioned at the beginning, and I've alluded to, and that is Alaska, and specifically Alaska this summer, which still, I'm in shock that we can do it. It's great. We've waited so long. It's finally here. We're going to fly the coop. A little bit about these cruises. They are starting July 24th, running through September 25 on the New Amsterdam. And there are 10 of them, these 7-day round trip sailings every Saturday from Seattle. Again, I'm not here to, I don't have a crystal ball in terms of your ability and how feasible it will be to get to Seattle. Like we've already said, things are looking very good, and hopefully all of our ducks should be in a row, and it should be possible. But speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant, use your own judgment, have those conversations. I encourage you to do so, but I'm really here to show you what they are once you can get there. So these departures are every Saturday on the New Amsterdam. Now, this is a ship that is very close to my heart because my wife and I were part of the inaugural team of this ship. We actually took the ship out of the yard and all around Europe for the inaugural season. So yeah, we have fantastic memories. I met my wife on board a Holland America Line ship, and I told you about this last time. We named our kids after Holland America Line ships. Little Volendam is 7, and Noordam is soon to be 5. But no, that isn't true. Like I say, we just affectionately call them our damn kids. But New Amsterdam, such a cool ship. I love this ship. She's been a familiar sight in Vancouver for a few years because she sailed a lot out of Vancouver. But what's so special about New Amsterdam, I'm just going to kind of nerd out for a second here with Holland America. That name is so important in the Holland America Line legacy and history, because there have been 4 New Amsterdams. The first New Amsterdam had a full set of sails. She sailed about 120 years ago. Then New Amsterdam 2 came along. She was built at the height of the Art Deco movement. So she had this gorgeous kind of marine Art Deco architecture throughout. And just as she was launched, World War II broke out. So she was converted to a troop carrier for the Allies, and she did her service for 5-6 years, carrying those troops across. She managed not to get bombed, because a lot of Holland America ships got bombed in both World Wars. And in a funny way, you know, it just goes to show we've been through everything. We've survived, you know, depressions, world wars. We're going to notch up COVID as another scar in battle. You know, we are pushing through. It's just another part of our history. But I digress. New Amsterdam 2, after she returned from service at the end of the war, she was restored and converted back to her glory, as it were, with that gorgeous marine architecture. And something interesting happened. She started to kind of pop up on the radar and gain notoriety with the kind of quote unquote celebrities of the time, like Rita Hayworth, Spencer Tracy, dignitaries, royals, and they would sail on her across the ocean, across the pond, and she became known as the darling of the Dutch. That was her nickname. And from that point, Holland America then became associated with a certain lifestyle and travel, luxury travel. And from there, things just kind of snowballed. So we owe a lot to that ship, New Amsterdam number 2. New Amsterdam number 3 actually sailed in the 80s and 90s. Maybe some of you sailed on her. So here we are, New Amsterdam number 4, again, breaking ground in her own way. That name pops up again in our history. So this is fantastic. And she has this very cool kind of slight modern Art Deco touch and a kind of nod to the Art Deco style on board. This very cool modern style. And she's got this kind of slight New York theme that runs through, because obviously New Amsterdam being the name of the original settlement in New York, there's a slight New York theme. So a very cool ship. That's why we're so excited to have her sailing these itineraries. So it's interesting. I usually, when I'm talking talking about Alaska with fellow Canadians here in the West, we're talking about sailings out of Vancouver, but this is a different itinerary, a new opportunity. So once you're there in Seattle, you've embarked, this is a sailing out into the Gulf. The itinerary is slightly different. And you may be familiar with Holland America having so many ships out of Vancouver. You know, we've got the Saturday ships, the Wednesday ships, land and sea, longer cruises. We've got all sorts of options out of Vancouver. And you may think that's why we win all these awards for Alaska, because we've got the ships. Sometimes half of our fleet will be based out of Vancouver. That's why we win awards. But also, it's because of the fleet in Seattle as well. We'll have 2 or 3 ships in Seattle every summer as well. So a huge presence in the West. And of course, the programming on board and the experience is a lot to kind of ties into why we're so recognized and known for Alaska. So the itinerary itself takes in Juneau. Here's the Mount Roberts tramway. And this is a slightly old picture because those are 2 R-class ships, which I haven't been to Alaska for some time. But what this picture does show is how Holland America, almost on every occasion, will dock in berths, in piers 1 and 2. So we have top billing. You can walk straight from the ships into the square to go up the tramway up to Mount Roberts, or you can get straight into a cab or onto an excursion to go to the Mendenhall Glacier downtown for the restaurants and the bars. It's there, it's convenient, we're downtown. If you were to kind of keep going off of your screen by about 2 or 3 inches, that's where the other cruise lines start to dock. That's about 20 minutes walk into town, or a 10-minute, 15-minute cab ride. If you were to carry on going about another 7 inches, 8 inches off the screen, that's where other cruise lines dock. That's the container port. That is a shuttle only. You have to line up for the shuttle. So having Holland America downtown is so convenient. That's why, when we say we're known for our itineraries in Alaska, it comes down to tangible aspects of the experience. Then Glacier Bay. We have a full day in Glacier Bay. Glacier viewing is key. We don't spend just a few hours there. We spend the full day for 3 glacier viewings, wildlife viewing opportunities for the full day. And then Sitka. Now, this is unusual to have Sitka on a cruise for a Western someone in Western Canada, because it's not typically on a cruise out of Vancouver, but out of Seattle it is. This is great for the Tongass Forest, the Raptor Center, the Brown Bear Conservation Center as well, so you can get to see those grizzlies up close and personal, the raptors, get a real feel for the true rugged Alaska, the history, the culture, the flora and fauna. The same with Ketchikan. Ketchikan is the real Alaska in that respect. The Saxman Native Village, Lumberjack Show, salmon bakes, Tongass Forest, canoeing, sports fishing, you name it. So that's what you can expect with those 2 ports. And a couple of other details in terms of the staterooms that are available. This is a work in progress. What you're probably going to see is ocean views and above. So if you typically book interiors, you will have to look at an ocean view and above. We are reducing our capacity for obvious reasons. We talked about those reasons. We're trying to create that extra space on board with these first few sailings. So that's something to consider. The final payments have been moved to 60 days. The typical cancel penalty phase does start at the regular point, but the final payments are closer in, so you don't have to think about those as far out. And we have something now called the worry-free promise. This is a pledge, and that means essentially if you book a cruise by currently the end of June and it's departed by the end of the year, you can cancel up to 30 days and receive an FCC. And we've developed a COVID-19 protection element where if you test positive before your cruise, you can cancel and get a full FCC. And if you were to test positive for some reason on board ship, there are additional protections and assistance as well as part of this worry-free promise, which I think is really cool. So that is important to know. And then I'll touch on this in just a second, but we've got a great way for you on board to have all of the most popular amenities for half the price of what you would have to pay on board if you just purchase them on board. And you can speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant about this. It's called Have It All. You can pay the regular cruise rate with no amenities, or you can have it all and you pay an amount that is equivalent to half of what you would have to pay if you were purchasing those yourself on board. These are the basic amenities. I'll touch on those in just a second. I want to wrap up now by just highlighting some of those other great West Coast options, especially from Vancouver and Alaska. Again, like I say, we are the experts. We've got the history, the programming. We've been operating there since before Alaska was even a state in terms of our land and sea, when it's with the ocean going cruises only, even longer. So we've really been a name for Alaska for a very long time. A key part of it is the amount of ships on the West Coast, which I've covered, and the fact we've got Glacier Bay on more itineraries than any other supplier, a cruise operator, and we will spend more time there. We talk about having all these permits. Aren't permits great? But what a permit means to you is essentially we can spend all day at Glacier Bay rather than just 2 hours or missing it at all, because that's one whole day of the cruise for you. And if you're going to spend X amount of dollars per day, isn't it great to know that day, instead of just being at sea in the Gulf, is actually spent in Glacier Bay, a full day narrated, with experts on board, with all those incredible wildlife viewing opportunities and 3 glacier viewing opportunities. And that's what it's all about in Glacier Bay. So the other kind of big news here in 2022 isn't all just about Europe and the fact that the Rotterdam, the brand new Pinnacle class ship, is sailing in Europe, our 150th anniversary. We also have a little celebration on the West Coast, not even a little celebration, it's a big one. And that's why this little chap here is so excited. Our Koningsdam, sister to the Rotterdam, will be sailing the Vancouver itineraries in 2022. And she's not just coming, you know, when the tide is low for 1 cruise or 2 cruises. She's here every Saturday. She is our regular Saturday ship. She hasn't been to the West Coast before. She hasn't been to Vancouver before. We've never had a Pinnacle class ship come to this part of the world. So we're very, very excited. This is a new opportunity for you to experience one of those Pinnacle class ships close to home. If you're thinking, oh, I love the look of that Rotterdam, but maybe I'm not going to be going to Europe in 2022, you can cruise out of Vancouver on the Koningsdam. She is a true beauty. So we're very excited to have her sail every Saturday. And she has one other lounge in this music walk setup that I didn't touch on earlier, because it's exclusive to the Pinnacle class at this point in time. And that is the Rolling Stone Rock Room, a band that is created, auditioned by Rolling Stone magazine. They're playing the classics, the 60s, 70s, 80s rock classics, you know, classic pub rock, the Eagles, Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac. You get the picture, that classic pub rock. And that's just one of these music venues that are all firing on 4 cylinders. It's going to be just such a great experience cruising to Alaska with this kind of entertainment. She's got a second coffee shop option, which is the Grand Dutch Cafe, a very authentic kind of Dutch cafe experience with Dutch crepes, pastries, treats, Dutch lagers, coffees, tea served on royal earthenware. This wonderful kind of observation area, as it were, looking over the atrium, and then this little nook to look out to sea as well. Beautiful little spot. The wonderful open kind of expansive dining room on board the Pinnacle class ship. You can see it right here. It's going to be fantastic. You know, when we talk about this physical distancing on board, and then you see a Holland America dining room, you understand how we can enact that and implement that so easily. So look out for that. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant for more options on those. And just a couple of others to finish up with. Not out of Vancouver. One is Open Jaw out of Vancouver. Vancouver, San Diego, 45 or 50 days. The other's 35 days round trip out of San Diego. These are so popular right now. We're seeing so many bookings from folks in the Lower Mainland and Western Canada. And I think it's because so many of you have been literally counting the days that you're not cruising. And you're thinking, well, you know, I've missed 4 or 5 cruises now. I need to catch up. I'm going out there for 50 days. And this is a great way to do it. It's a deep dive exploration of the South Pacific, those jewels in the South Pacific, overnight stays in Bora Bora, Papeete, cross the international dateline, cross the equator, some real kind of special stuff. And Hawaii, in its own right, is available on the Koningsdam, that new ship that I just talked about that's coming to Vancouver, available in April, October, the following April. This coming April, starting to get very heavily booked. Speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant. So convenient. You get to experience a new Holland America ship, extra days at sea, a relaxing journey out there to Hawaii, either at the end of the summer or the kind of beginning of the springtime. So some awesome options there. And then this is, again, not from Vancouver, but it's just so convenient in turn, especially when you consider just how prolific it is. San Diego, across the equator, across the international dateline, a deep exploration of the Pacific, which connects with round trip Sydney, which is a Holland America classic, Australian circumnavigation. They can be combined to make 69 days. Speak with your Expedia Cruise consultant about that. You get a discount, about a 10% discount when you combine cruises together. It was a great way to get more value, but you can go around Australia, circumnavigate on it in its own right, do half of that, or connect the whole thing together. So some awesome options, and I love these. These are my favorite types of itineraries out of when it comes to crossing the Pacific out of the Pacific Northwest over to Japan, or crossing the Bering Sea coming back. You can combine it with the first or last Asia cruise of the season, and it's something for the cruise connoisseur, the port collectors, to do this kind of this kind of itinerary. So they're coming up in the fall of next year and the spring. And then just to wrap up, the Panama Canal is back from Vancouver. And what I mean by this is we've had a kind of a hiatus when it comes to the Panama Canal out of Vancouver. We haven't offered one even pre-COVID. There was a time where we'd taken a pause from some offering Vancouver to or from Panama Canal itineraries. This wasn't for any particular reason other than the way our deployments worked out. So it's been some time since we've had a ship cruise from Vancouver or to Vancouver through the Panama Canal. And Panama Canal itineraries are awesome because no two are the same. They're not cookie cutter itineraries. There's always a mix of ports that's different. There's a little bit of everything. It's the kind of lush jungle, the ecology, the beaches. If you want to have those days where you have the margarita and real authentic tacos on the beach, you can have that. The colonial architecture, the cities, the transit itself, watching the ship rise 80 feet above sea level through nothing other than the sheer force of gravity. That's a rite of passage. The history, not just of the Panama Canal, the canals themselves, but the ancient history with the kind of Mayan history, the flora and fauna, like I say. So Panama Canals are back. We've got 4 of them. There's only 3 on the screen here, but basically next spring, next fall, and the following spring, we've got canal options to either start your summer earlier or extend your summer by sailing out of Vancouver or flying down to Fort Lauderdale and cruising back. So some great options there. Speak with the team about that. If you just want to do that new ship Koningsdam, but you just want to have some sunshine for a week, you can fly down to San Diego, do a classic Mexican Riviera. And the last few itineraries, I've got to mention this because they are somewhat hot off the press. These came out just about 8 weeks ago. Pacific Northwest coastals, which you might think of as those 1 or 2 day sailings. I don't generally talk about those types of itineraries. They're convenient, but let's leave the 1 or 2 day, Pacific Northwest stuff to BC ferries. I think a cruise experience should be longer, at least 4, 5, 6 days. And the kind of portfolio of coastal options that we have right now for 2022 and 23 are much longer. San Diego up to Vancouver on the Koningsdam, the wine country, 6 days. This one on the right hand side here, Vancouver round trip, that is very popular. That's what a great way just to get the whole family together, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandkids, grandparents, everyone together for 5 days, round trip out of Vancouver. So having said that, the offers that I mentioned earlier, or the offer of have it all, that applies to the sailings that are 6 days and over. So it would only apply to the sailings that are the coastal sailings that are 6 days and above. But just to kind of recap what I mentioned earlier, this is something your Expedia Cruises consultant can add for you. You can discuss this with them. It means you've got the option to add shore excursion credits to run up to $300, depending on the length of the cruise you're on. You've got a drink package, which isn't just a kind of mini light drink package. It's the most comprehensive. It's called the signature beverage package. Covers 85% of all the beverage items on the menu. Specialty dining, 1, 2, or 3 specialty dining experiences that you get depending on the length of the cruise, and then Wi-Fi. Again, the most comprehensive package in terms of its kind of popularity. It's the surf package. It covers probably 80% of what you would expect to do online. You know, your social media, your messaging, email, news, pretty much everything except video and audio streaming, which not many folks are doing when they're on board ship, but it covers all the essentials. So you can have that added for half the price that you would expect to pay yourself if you walked on board ship and added it to your account. And the team at Expedia Cruises can discuss that with you. So we've got another layer just for being here this evening. If you decide to book something in the next 8 days, and essentially this has to be a cruise that is 7 days or above. It doesn't apply to those 6-day coastals or less, but 7 days or above, you will get some extra shipboard credit. The team at Expedia Cruises and myself have worked on this as a special deal for you. So you've got some shipboard credit. Depending on the length of cruise you book and which category you're booked in, you will receive anywhere from $35 to $150 shipboard credit to spend on board. Again, speak with your Expedia Cruises consultant. They'll tell you how much you're eligible for. It pretty much applies to most cruises 7 days or over, just not the grand voyages. And then you'll get that Have It All promotion. Well, you have an option to take the Have It All promotion that I just mentioned. But also you receive benefits by working with Expedia Cruises. This is key because Expedia Cruises has an economy of scale through their network where they receive benefits from Holland America and other cruise operators, and they pass them on to you. So you receive those benefits because they work in such volume. You wouldn't be able to access those kind of deals on your own. You're not going to get those kind of extras by booking with Holland America directly. You're better off booking through Expedia Cruises every time. So make sure you're working with your Expedia Cruises team. Also, they are on top of everything when it comes to these COVID return to sail protocols. They are up to date with the latest information, not just for Holland America, across all of the cruise lines. So they have the expertise. They know the cruise lines inside out, each ship and stateroom. So they've got that expertise. They've got the deals. And probably the most important thing is they are a real person in the community, a phone call or an email or a visit away that has your back. Even in the best of times, we see, flights deviated, whatever it may be. It's great to know wherever you are. If you've already left for your travel itinerary, or you're at home, if something changes, you can just reach out and call them, email them, and they are your advocate. They'll take care of you very simply. They're there for you. So that is the primary reason of all the reasons. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to you, Chrissy. I think you've got a few other things you want to mention. Then maybe we'll have some questions.
We do. We have some questions, which I'll get to in just a minute. I just want to thank you, Tom. That was fantastic. I'm even more excited now at the prospect of going to Alaska with my mom. I'm very excited. Her and I haven't cruised together for a few years, so it would be really fun. And yeah, I just want to talk to you about trip insurance. Now, we do have some questions, and one of them is about your insurance, which we'll come to in a minute. But so thank you for touching on that. But yeah, travel insurance and travel protection is going to be one of the most important components, obviously, of your travel purchase this year and next year, just because of the changing environment, and we still have a lot of uncertainties, but we're hoping to see some of those become less uncertain in the next few weeks. So talk with your licensed professionals. The agents in our centers are licensed at selling insurance, and they can give you all the details. So moving forward, make sure you are covered and that you're protecting your investment. And I just want to remind you that our offices are open. In fact, I'm sitting in my office here this evening, and we're ready. We're ready for business. We're all available either by appointment, by phone, by email, and we can even use Zoom. So I did a client call recently with a client call on Zoom. It was quite fun because it's nice to be able to see each other rather than just on the phone, right? So if you're not comfortable and ready to come in the office, please just set up an appointment by Zoom or to come in when the offices are quiet. Most of us are keeping the numbers down anyways. You're not walking into an office of 20 or 30 people. It's pretty quiet. It's a nice time to come visit us. We're very eager for you to come visit us. And we're going to help you book your staycation. If you're not ready to travel internationally this year, perhaps you want to visit family in Canada, come and see us and we can help you with that as well. We'll help you with international travel when you're ready. We know not everyone's ready. You know, great saying out there, of course, we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. So right now, you know, whatever your comfort level is. And we want to help you learn about the protocols, which we'll talk about when we get to some of the questions, Tom. It's a new world we're traveling into. So we want to make sure your trip is seamless and memorable and that we can help you with all the questions you have. So please feel free, like I said, call your agent. You've got their number, I'm sure, direct. If not, these are the numbers for all of our centers that are participating this evening. And a reminder as well that we are a full service agency. So if even though we're experts on Holland America, we're also capable and experts on land vacations. We can combine a tour with a cruise. We can help you with a weekend in Vegas or a trip to Maui or Hawaii with family and friends. So think of us as your full service agent. Not just cruising, but experts on Holland, right, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
Now, on that, we have a couple questions. Some of these, we might not have all the information yet, but we'll try to do our best job here. So number one was, we got this asked twice, actually, what constitutes proof of having been fully vaccinated, or what is acceptable proof of vaccine? I did comment, and you might have some more information, Tom, specific to Holland, but I know today I heard on the news all the provinces in Canada are meeting with the government. They're talking about it. They're discussing whether we're going to have what's called a vaccine passport. I don't know if it'll be ready immediately. It's probably a work in progress. So I don't know. Have you heard yet from Holland as to what they're accepting as proof of vaccination?
It's a work in progress. So nothing has been confirmed yet. We know we are going to require but the form that we require it in, it has not been confirmed yet because so many jurisdictions are working on their own ways of having this, whether you call it a vaccine passport or just a simple kind of scan of your vaccine record. So watch this space. There'll be more information to come as we get closer. We will be providing this information. We're just kind of finessing the details right now. So
right,
sorry,
exactly.
Too much information on that. It's just a lot of balls up in the air with that at the moment.
Yep. No, I know that. And like I said, I only just heard it on the news today that the provinces are all speaking with the government. So we'll know more as well. You mentioned here, and we're not going to concern ourselves with next year's protocols yet, because that's just too many questions there still. But for this year, did you say independent arranged shore excursions are not permitted?
They are permitted. Currently, the way we are looking at it is you can go ashore with a Holland America excursion or independently. So independently could mean you're just walking off the gangway yourself into town, jumping in a taxi, or you've arranged a third party shore excursion yourself. Obviously, for you, if you're taking an actual shore excursion, you use the Holland America excursion for those basic reasons that shore excursion operator has been vetted and approved by us. And we have their details. They're in contact with the ship, the port agent, the Shorex team. But obviously, it's your choice. We want you to have that flexibility and that independent option. So yes, you could, as it stands now, you could technically go ashore and do that. So think of it like this: if a local in Alaska was able to use that local in Alaska tour operator to, take a bus tour around the town, if a local can do it, if you step off the ship, you can do it too. That's
perfect. Well, that's great, because that answered somebody else's question. They want to know whether they could get off and wander on their own and go and have lunch and do their own thing. So
you just have to abide by the local laws and regulations and restrictions implemented for locals.
Perfect. Now, you did mention this already, but about the Holland America insurance. Did you say there was some COVID coverage?
The COVID coverage, well, that's called the worry-free. That's part of what we call the worry-free promise, and that isn't part of the cancellation protection. That is essentially for everyone who's booking currently on a sailing that is taking place by the end of the year, and that is where you receive an FCC if you are tested positive for COVID at any point prior to the cruise or on board. There's even more assistance. So that is separate from our Holland America cancellation protection.
Okay, and back to what we talked about a minute ago with the excursions, and I won't get into this too much because I think it's a very lengthy discussion, but someone did ask if someone got off and went on a shore excursion, what assurance we have that that passenger is not exposed to COVID. Well, we did discuss earlier that everybody, 100% of passengers will be double fully vaccinated. Therefore, your exposure to COVID actually would be quite limited. And again, I don't want to pretend to be a doctor on how all that works. But are you also testing when people come back on board, or do we know at this point?
At this point, we don't know. My understanding is testing is pre and post. There may be more information on that in terms of in the.
So we'll find out
as everyone's vaccinated. We're trying to create a fully vaccinated environment to really kind of reduce the possibilities of anyone having symptoms, even in that respect. But yeah, more information to come there. I can only really comment on the testing pre and post rather than the post, but we may see that, we may not. This is kind of, we're getting more news and developments each week, essentially.
Yeah. So prepared for change is what you're saying. So,
yeah.
And I think that goes further to this next question. Someone asked, what happens if passengers test positive mid-cruise? What will be the protocols? And I mean, I can speak a little bit to what we just saw happen on the, I believe it was Celebrity Millennium, when there were 2 passengers who were fully vaccinated, but they did get COVID and they were quarantined. I don't know that they were removed from the ship. I think they were just quarantined until they got off at the port in the next few days. And the rest of the passengers carried on. I mean, there were some people who they had been in close contact with, so they had to get tested. They stayed in the room until the test results came back within 2 to 3 hours, I understand. So we have learned so much from last year, and so much has changed from last year that we're never going to see the same kind of situations we've seen in the past. But can you speak to anything in terms of that? I mean, have you heard any protocols?
Yeah. Well, just kind of to echo your sentiments. Yeah, I mean, what a difference in, and this is purely, I'm only kind of chatting and speculating now based on the news that I've seen of what happened with the Celebrity Millennium. I don't have any inside kind of there, but yeah, from my understanding, that was the end of cruise testing. It wasn't that those folks had symptoms and that's why they were tested. It was regular end of cruise testing, and yeah, they isolated, and then so that they were kind of handled appropriately. And yeah, what a far cry that is of what we saw. Those situations that were kind of terrible, kind of PR for the cruise industry when COVID was really starting to come to the fore. It's a night and day situation.
It is.
Now, when you think of the numbers, the way the symptoms were, the fact it was symptomless, and there were vaccines required. So I can't really speak to exactly how they will be how that will be handled and how they'll be taken care of, but we do have that treatment facility on board with experienced doctors and nurses who are experienced in treating COVID symptoms. So obviously they'll be in the hands of the medical staff, and we take it from there. And
Perfect.
I'm sure the questions, and as we get closer, we'll have more answers as we get there.
Right. So that just leaves me to our last questions here, which was, what do you know yet? I mean, again, it's a bit early. We're going to find out more as we go, how you'll be distancing people in the main stage audience and around the pools or on the Lido deck. And I mean, as you talked about, there's going to be reduced capacity. We're not going out with a full ship. So there's going to be automatically empty seats in a theater or ballroom or anywhere because of the fact that you don't have a full ship, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess something that if you haven't cruised Holland America, it's worth knowing that we don't have lines of folks, queuing up, lining up to get into venues. We don't have tickets, you know, people lining up with their tickets. With our show lounges, most of the ship could, you know, even with a full capacity ship, could be in the lounge together. If we're operating 2 shows a night, maybe we'll have supplemental shows. We're going to have certain times for certain groups to go to certain shows. We'll work the dining reservations the same way. We know we have the physical space to do it. It's just a case of us being able to schedule dining and opening certain parts of, say, the Lido market at a certain time, and the next part another time for other folks. So we don't know exactly how that kind of roll call is going to be kind of implemented yet, of who goes when where, but it's something we've been doing for years with shore excursions, and we're pretty good at handling traffic in that respect with busy shore excursions and tender ports. We know how to implement it in that side of things. We just need to move it into the other aspects of shipboard life. So we don't foresee it's a problem. We know what the capacity is we're working to. So yeah, more information to come again.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the capacity? I haven't heard that. Do we know what percentage it is?
There isn't a set number, because
no,
we're starting with a number we're comfortable with. You know, we kind of control those availability and inventory levels, ocean view and verandas. We want to make sure we've got enough space if we did need to quarantine, this type of thing. Also keeping the numbers down of folks on board for the physical distancing. We don't have a specific number.
Well, I love that idea, because once we get clients, as we know, into an ocean view or balcony, they'll never go back, right?
Exactly. Once you book a suite, you never go back.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited about that. So thank you, Tom. And I just want to tell you that we've had nothing but positive comments here. Fantastic presentation. They love the cruise line, and there are all the new amenities on the coning Dan. Thank you. Great presentation. Lots of information to ponder. And also someone just commented and said, we're looking forward to our South Pacific cruise in September of 2022 out of Vancouver. So lots of Holland America fans here tonight, which is great. And if I do take my mom in September, this will be my first time on Holland America. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to try it. She's been on Holland before, so she's going to be the expert. She'll take me around the ship and show me everything she knows about Holland. But so thank you again. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and giving us your time, and for giving Expedia cruise offices and Holland America your time this evening. It is so appreciated. Thank you, Tom, of course. And I just want to say thank you for supporting your local centers. I know we have this great big brand. I think it's right behind me on the wall, the Expedia brand, which is fabulous for buying power and for doing what Tom says, which is negotiating great rates and great amenities and all the things we can do by having a fabulous brand. But each of our stores, all the ones you see tonight and all the stores across North America, are independently owned. I live 5 minutes away from my office, as do most of the owners of our centers. So please, thank you for your local support and shopping local. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Tom, again for a fantastic presentation. Our next travel talk, it is Tuesday, June 29th. It's going to be with Insight Vacations and Uniworld Boutique River Cruises. So we hope you can join us. Look for the invite. If you didn't already receive it, there'll be a reminder coming out soon. Thank you, Tom. Fantastic. Really excited to get cruising. Let's hope we get to fly the coop soon. So thanks very much.
Christy. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.